Ladies and gentlemen, after that kind of misbehavior in public office, Trinidad and Tobago desperately needed sound, sober, and visionary leadership. We needed a man who was not afraid to deal with matters head on. Trinidad and Tobago needed a man willing to fight for the rights of all those who are sexually harassed and otherwise. We needed a man of vision, a birth son of Tobago, a PNM born right here in Tunapuna, the political leader of the People's National Movement, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
Know that you're building a strong foundation for this great nation. This is a nation of many races, different faces in many spaces. So when you're voting, know that you're building.
Thank you very much,
a strong foundation for this
Public Relations Officer of the People's National Movement, the vibrant Laurel Lezama, party officers, President, Deputy Political Leader and Campaign Manager, Senator Rohan Sinanan, somewhere in our crowd here tonight, my cabinet colleague, the Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Minister of Health, Mr. Terence Dayal Singh, my other cabinet colleague coming from the powerful constituency of Aruka Maloney, the Lady Vice Chairman of the People's National Movement and the country's Minister of Planning and Development, my parliamentary colleague who sits in the chair in the House and keeps order, difficult as it might be from time to time, the Member of Parliament for the historic constituency of Tunapuna, Mr. Esmond Ford, my other parliamentary colleagues in the audience, and most importantly, you, the people of Tunapuna, and the tens of thousands of persons who are following us on all our media fronts, whether it's on television, at home, on the radio, or following our live stream. A very good night to this PNM meeting here at Exodus Panyard in Tunapuna tonight, the 5th of November. Ladies and gentlemen, we in the PNM, we take pride in the fact that when you pay attention to a PNM meeting, you learn something. Not every citizen agrees with us. We are in a country where there's party politics, and there are people who support us sometimes, all the time, or not at all. That is our political system. But we crave the opportunity to speak to all our citizens and expect that they will educate themselves and then make that decision for themselves as to who they want to put the country's business to, in whose hand. And that is why it's so important that you, the citizens, pay attention, especially in this era, where you have to check and double check everything they put on your phone. Because as Prime Minister, I must tell you, even when information comes to me from government agencies or what appears to be government agencies, before I act on it or share it with anybody, I have to check it to see if it is fact or if it is fiction being fed to me. And you will learn more about this as we go forward in the days ahead, because this is 2019. This is the era of the damage of Facebook. This is the era where the head of Facebook is before the US Congress answering very serious questions as to whether Facebook should be allowed to provide a platform for politicians to lie to the population. This is the era where Trinidad and Tobago became and created something called Cambridge Analytica, where the policy is truth does not matter, is what you can get the population to believe. And if you don't look after yourself, you can make decisions that can be very hurtful to you. And we have people in our political arena, those midwives of Cambridge Analytica. They are quite prepared in an election, outside of an election, to tell you what is far from the fact. Not that they will only hide information from you, as the Minister of Health just said, but they will fabricate information and feed it to you through these platforms. And many of you are very gullible because it used to be, it was in the papers, so it's true. Now it's on the phone, so I believe it. Check everything that is put to you. I saw a minister, a member of parliament, came to the parliament, and without a shred of line of information, far less evidence, gets up in our parliament on parliamentary time and puts to the Minister of Health, what is the government doing about the outbreak of tuberculosis at Costat? Ladies and gentlemen, an outbreak of tuberculosis or cholera attracts the attention of the world. And when a member of parliament in our parliament comes and asks the Minister of Health to respond to a concern, because they always have concerns about an outbreak of tuberculosis among a population of students in our little island nation, you ask yourself, where did he get that from? Why is he the only person who knows anything about that? You know why? Because it's part of a disruption of the psyche of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, where the policy is to feed you lies, feed you hatred, feed you misinformation, to keep you disturbed so that you will somehow go to the polls and vote against the government. That's what it's all about. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it exists in Trinidad and Tobago a prime minister leading a government which is not about ourselves. We are from a party, we are 63 years old, and during that time, we led this country for decades. We sat in the opposition benches on many occasions, but on every occasion, in or out of government, we do what has to be done for the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So since January, they were calling for elections. We told them in simple English, the election, the local government election, will be called as soon as it is due. January, February, March, April, May, they're calling for elections. One day after the election is due in this country, one working day after, you are going to the polls to vote in for local government elections. One day after. Local government term in 2019 comes to an end on the 28th of November. The next day is a Friday, and then Monday, the next working day, you are going to the polls. I, as Prime Minister, have done what I had to do. It is now for you, the people, to do what you have to do. Come out and vote on the 2nd of December. But what is their campaign? Their campaign is to encourage you not to vote, because they are engaging in voter suppression, which is part of the policy and program of Cambridge Analytica, because they sold that and told people that some people in the country, by their cultural and ethnic background, don't vote. So they will campaign there to get them not to vote. On the other hand, there are others who will vote in rain, in sun, in shine, and that is their policy. You think those people like this country? You think those people are about building a nation? You think they are the people who will appoint a former UNC minister, as we did, to chair a company in Trinidad and Tobago? Well, I could tell you, because we believe in all the people of this country tonight, I can tell you, as PNM Prime Minister, the chairman of TSTT is an ONR-NAR man. The chairman of the NCC was a former minister of government in the UNC. The commissioner of police was a former minister of government in the UNC, and the only people who will do that in this country, taking the best for the job, regardless of your race, color, creed, class, or political make, is the People's National Movement. They can't say that. Their entire campaign is about despoiling people's names. It have one under a stone called Master Brave Boy that they feed in under a stone somewhere. Every day she on my case. Every day, but she can't come forward because, you know, we still have laws in this country working for the UNC. But it is for you, the people, to decide in whose hands you will put this country. You have done well in 2015. You've put it in the caring hands of the People's National Movement. This is a local government election. Let me spend a few minutes tonight telling you where we at with local government. This manifesto, this is our manifesto. And you people in Trinidad and Tobago, you all just forget too quickly. Not even 9 days, some of them is 3 days. When we produced this manifesto, what was the reaction of the UNC to the PNM's manifesto? Go to the head of the class. The opposition leader came on a platform and tear up this manifesto into pieces. Let me tell you what she taught. I'm going straight to page 54. Page 54 of the PNM manifesto. And we're talking, we are people, citizens talking. Let me read for you what was on page 54. And that is page 53. The headline is local government. We laid out our position on local government. And just bear with me, let me just read for you a couple paragraphs of our manifesto. This is we came to you for a mandate, and we said to you what we are going to do with respect to local government. We spoke about transformation, because before that, a previous PNM government, Patrick Manning's government with Hazel Manning as Minister of Local Government, conducted all kinds of consultations. You remember that story? So we had done the groundwork, and a document exists produced by our PNM government about local government. There's no need for any bacchanal over it. It's just get it done, just get it done. The government changed, nothing was done, but the PNM comes back to its roots and its policy. Another PNM comes into office under this manifesto, and it says, we will amend the relevant revenue and taxation laws. This is paragraph number 1 under local government, because this is the most important part. This is the backbone of local government reform. Amend the relevant revenue and taxation laws to allow local government bodies to return certain taxes collected within their boundaries. This dedicated source of revenue funding will allow corporations to acquire the resources to empower their workforce to operate at maximum capacity. That was the backbone of the local government reform that came out of the consultations of the Hazel Manning era. It is here in our manifesto. We campaigned on it in the last local government election, but we came to Parliament. And guess what? The same individual who taught these words and her clique, the nipple biters and hand pushers and whatever else, when we set about to do what had to be done, which is to go to operate what they themselves left there, the taxes to be collected from all the properties in this country to be used by the 14 corporations, so they will have a revenue stream like the THA to give you better service. They decide, while people were lining up on the pavement to pay that tax, they decided to go to court. Because you see, they like to run to court because they believe the courthouse belongs to them. So they went to court and created issues in the court of all kinds, not in furtherance of this, to improve local government, but something that they have to rectify because they always have concerns. But they knew if they go to court and present any arguable case, the court would listen, because our court is free and fair. In the court, we ended up in a situation where people who were lining up to pay their taxes were told the government can't collect taxes. We have to go and re-register every house in the country. And until we have done 50% of the country's houses, starting from scratch, we can't collect the tax. But they campaigned in 2010 on Axe the Tax. We of the PNM, we are a responsible political party. We know that you are right-thinking, sensible people. We know that you know that in every democratic country in the world, that is a tax that populations accept. Because if you want your road fixed, your drain fixed, your mosquito kill, your police service, your fire service, if you want all that, you make a contribution. And that contribution, we use the value of your property as the way to determine what you will pay. If you have a multi-million-dollar house, the assumption is made that you are well off and you could pay a certain amount. If you have a little shanty or a little kubus somewhere, you don't have to pay nothing, or you pay a little bit. I can tell you that because I grew up in that. I inherited property at age 17, and I paid my tax all my working life, $1.44. That is what it was about. But they come and tell you something about property tax. Politicize it. Get you to believe that you could get in this country an improvement in local government, an improvement in services, and of course, is a bad word. So last couple of weeks, when she was made to respond to the Minister of Finance, who presented the most balanced budget that could have been presented under the circumstances. You know what the leader of the opposition told this country? And I want all of you to listen to it. She said that the UNC's policy on that tax is that they will abolish property tax. So they effectively abolished it when they gave a waiver for 5 years while they were in office, because the law is still that tax is still on our books. They gave a waiver for the 5 years when they were in government, so the tax was not paid. But they could afford to do that, because in those days, oil price was over $100 a barrel, and money was coming into the country in a decent way, coming through their ears, and they couldn't thief enough of it. But then it collapsed down to $30. Even so, this is a tax that we have agreed upon. Before they go through the door to leave government in 2015, what did they do? They ended the waiver. That is the level of dishonesty. That is an integral part of the UNC. While you're in office, you give a waiver. But the last thing the Minister of Finance did before we put them out of office, they ended the waiver, meaning that the law is now in force. And having done that, when this government goes to collect the tax to improve local government, they go to court and create manima. We have to obey the law. We are a law-abiding party and government. So as a result of that, we are still in the court. There's a matter still in the court. And of course, you have hundreds of people being paid to go out there and start to build a role from scratch. Because we believe that someday in the future, that tax will come into force and we'll be a reasonable, sensible people all over the world. That is a tax that is deemed to be fair and reasonable. And those same people, many of them have properties abroad. And they run to pay it first in the line. Because where they own property in other people's country, they could pay it. But in this country, they will abolish it. Let me read for you another paragraph. It says, we will amend the Municipal Corporation Act to give local government a level of autonomy and executive authority similar to what is now enjoyed by the THA. That is what she tore up. She tear it up. And of course, if you're not going to get the revenue stream, then we can't deliver that to you, because what the THA has, which what you don't have, the THA, under the THA Act in Tobago, has the authority to collect and keep revenue. Let's be sensible. If you have a job and you're getting $3,000 a month, as long as that is a steady stream of income, you could go to a bank and buy a car. You could borrow some money to build a house because you could pay for it in portions. If you're earning $100,000 a month, you could build a house, you take a mortgage, but that revenue stream is what keeps you and gives you the ability to do those things. When they kill off the revenue stream, the whole local government reform is now put in jeopardy, and that is what they do. And I'll come back to that in a while. Let me read for you the third paragraph. We will ensure, as a matter of policy, that first preference for award, and listen carefully, first preference for the award of contracts for work done by local government bodies is given to contractors and service providers from within the geographic boundaries of cooperation rather than from outside, stimulating local activity and construction capacity. That is in the PNM manifesto. When we tried to do that, starting with garbage collection, you know what happened? Let me tell you what happened. When the last prime minister won the election, somebody picked her up in a vehicle and carried her to Gopal House down there in Paji. Right? 5 minutes from me, I'm told. That prime minister started working out of Gopal House. Gopal is a big contractor in garbage. The minute we put this policy in place for that purpose that we describe in the manifesto, she inside the man's house. You know what they did? They took the government state company to court, and we could not award garbage contracts in the 14 corporations because the particular lawyers and the particular party and the particular leader see it fit to force a maintenance of the status quo of the big garbage contractors from Ohio down in Diego Martin, up in the hill in St. John's, and not doing the job, and the corporation can't do a thing about it. But we said in local government reform, every corporation would be given the authority to choose and to work with and to award contracts to who's going to serve you. It is last week that case ended. And I'm pleased to report to you that the government won the case, and now corporations are now going to be entitled to award contracts within corporations. They went to court, took the government to court to say that corporations should not be allowed to award contracts to small and medium contractors. You see how they use the courthouse? They don't use it to advance you, to advance themselves. It's months she was in Gopal House and going to the court to tell the court that that should remain. I want to ask you, you remember when I went on a platform in Arima, one night in Arima, and I read out for you all the details of the corruption in the garbage award? And after that, we won the election and tried to fix it by distributing the work within the corporation. So you'll have big contractors, medium-sized ones, small ones. In some departments, in some areas, you have very narrow streets on the hillside that want certain kinds of vehicles. And of course, what we're trying to do is to give you in your district the authority to make those decisions. And if you are unhappy with the performance of the garbage contractor, you have the authority to fire them. They went to court to tell the court no. But the courts in Trinidad and Tobago, free and fair as they are, and populated by people who are citizens of this country and who are not mad and crazy, they ruled that the corporation has the right to hire who they want to hire. So when we tell you we are getting the job done, we're not getting it done easily, you know. We have to fight these imps every step of the way, with or without holy water. Because you see, let me read for you another paragraph. We want to allow municipal corporations to engage directly suitably qualified local contractors for drainage and road work, among other infrastructure projects, to allow work on these projects to commence in a timely manner. Who serious person in this country who want people to improve and areas to improve will tear up that? That is what she tore up on the platform. And end up in the opposition and using the courthouse to tell the court that the court should prevent corporations from awarding contracts within their borders. What are they coming to tell you in this election on December 2nd? coming to tell you to vote for them to continue that kind of conduct? Well, if you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, with so many thousands of schools in this country, and with your grandmother's sense and your grandfather's sense, would let them do that and then get you to the polls, then you deserve what you get. Last week, Saturday, one of them walking up and down in Wallafield with a string band of people behind them. All of them paid employees to walk. Paying people to walk with them to look as if they have support. And then one of my colleagues asked me, but where are they getting this money from to pay all these people? Like you all forgot what happened in 2010 to 2015. We are building the Curep roundabout for $221 million. The Curep overpass. Tunapuna, you'll pass under it very soon. It's well underway. That is costing the country $221 million. They were building the same roundabout, minus 2 roads that added to it, for $524 million. So who was getting the $300 million? Now you understand why they could pay people to walk with them? Well, whenever you walk with the PNM, you walk for free because you are honest and you ain't thief nothing. You walk with a PNM candidate, you walk with PNM candidates because you support these policies, these programs, and the history of the People's National Movement. All 63 years of it. But I'm paying people walking with them. They get a salary to walk. And let me tell you all something. That is a warning to you all. Up to now, with half of them, with the police on their long warner tail, not one of them has apologized for what they have ended up in. They're simply telling you they're coming back. They're coming back. You understand? It's like a man in a rum shop and an argument break out. And he tell you he's coming back. Leave, eh? He going for cutlass, gun or knife. Them coming back. The first thing they have to do is to acknowledge where they went wrong and they were off track and to apologize to this country. And they have an ad. They have an ad on the television, on wherever it is, with some woman who they're paying again. Somebody to say, boy, this is what the government give you. Well, we making one. And here how our own going. Boy, we know times hard. We know things not easy. We know the government catching its nenen. But if they didn't thief out this country so, we might be a little better off now, you know. Ad for ad. Right? So, and let me see who could make better ads. You see, one of the things we promised was using municipal police to improve your safety and security. We've done that. We've trained and put in place hundreds of police officers who are now in corporations. We're aiming to go to the full amount, where each corporation will get 100 municipal police officers. That will be 1,400. I think we are by 800 now. We have to select them carefully and train them and then put them out of service. They couldn't block that. That's why we've done it. So you see, the next page, in keeping with local government reform, because many of our local corporations are strongly rural. The next page in our manifesto is rural development. Let me tell you what that said. The PNM intends to establish a Ministry of Rural Development. We have done that. This is the only government where there has been a minister with specific responsibility to coordinate and to action rural development programs. Minister Kazim Hussein is the first and only Minister of Rural Development in this country. And if you don't understand what that means, I'm a geographer. I'm a farmer. I know this country. Go and look at a map of Trinidad. Take a line from Matlot to Marak and pull a line from Matlot to Marak on that map. And what do you see? You will see half of the country on the right-hand side of that line, and the other half on the left-hand side. So half of Trinidad is in 4 constituencies: Tocos and the Grande, Kumuto Manzanilla, Mayaro and Moruga. 4 rural districts, but they make up half of the land space of Trinidad. And those 4 districts are not sufficiently involved in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. They require infrastructure to do that. We know that. And that is why we said we're going to have a Minister of Rural Development. And it is that ministry which is today overseeing the implementation of the road improvement in Maruga. It is that ministry that's working sideways with the Ministry of Works and Transport to improve the road to Toko. It is that ministry in the team of the cabinet that is ensuring that the road to San Grande is built, because what we're aiming to do is to bring that half of the country into the economy by building up the infrastructure. That's in our manifesto. You see, everything we got to do in this country that could be of value to the people, the UNC tried to block it. So, it would have been of immense value if we were able to not have this courthouse road to prevent people from having to wait to get the improvement that will come when local government bodies are able to collect and keep their taxes and get supplemental income from the Minister of Finance. Which is what happens in Tobago. And all of you Trinidadians, when you go to Tobago, I've heard you on many occasions commenting on how better Tobago is maintained. The place is cleaner. There's better maintenance, you see. The public buildings are better maintained because Tobagonians are held accountable for those things. As long as you don't have that revenue stream, you will bring no significant improvement in local government. None. That is the heart of it. So they blocked that. And of course, at the national level, we are going to the parliament as part of our country's reform to bring about a revenue authority. They didn't see it yet. They are yet. They intend to block it. They spent a year and a half. Every time the boat sails to Tobago, they're glad. As a matter of fact, they were hoping that somebody did drown in the channel lane. One night we had a problem with a boat that broke down, and we had to very carefully take people off one boat to the other. If you know how them so sorry that nobody died in that process. They came to the parliament, they were so sorry that it didn't end in disaster, but the professional officers handled it. And how do you solve those problems? How do you solve problems of not having boats that could do the job and not break down every day? After they run the 2 boats we had continuously with no maintenance. They who ran the 2 boats, the Spirit and the Express, ran them into the bottom of the ground, into the ocean, without maintenance. When the government changed, we inherit those 2 situations. We couldn't even get an extension of the license on the boats because they had already been extended so often that the insurance people said, no more. That's what we had. We couldn't take you across the channel on a banana leaf or a coconut bow. We had to go looking for a boat for you. There was none to be had in the world that was available for lease because we advertised in the world. Instead of standing with us as a government and saying, as a people, you got a problem with solving it. No, man, them out there, man, and they're giving me jamming. We found a boat. We found a boat that was new but never used. The owner couldn't pay for it from Venezuela. And we said, okay, since we come to lease a boat, but this one is for sale, it's not the perfect boat, but it's good enough for the situation, we bought it. Man, what they didn't say about the Galleon Passage is what they forgot. They accused the government of corruption. They have one called Wade Mack. His mouth like corruption. Every minute, they accuse the government of corruption. They put lies on Facebook, how much $1 million the boat shouldn't cost, and the boat is our old boat. And of course, they had Duke coming over the channel, swimming halfway and quarter way, and he's saying it's a river boat. And then, of course, while relief is coming to you, you had Wade Mack as a member of parliament, a former speaker, telling the population, don't travel on the Galleon Passage because the boat is dangerous. That is after they stuff orange and shirt and thing down in the toilet, you know. But I can tell you now, the Galleon Passage has been working between Trinidad and Tobago non-stop every day, and it missed one sailing. It missed one sailing, and that was when the Met Office gave a warning that the sea state would have been dangerous. They wouldn't tell you that. And of course, that was not meant to be our final solution. Our final solution is to buy 2 new ferries. But because of how they treated the Treasury, we didn't have the money to go and buy a ferry. But governments borrow and buy things and build things. I, as your Prime Minister, at the heads of government meeting in London, I met the Australian Prime Minister. I sat down with him and I said, look, we have this problem in Trinidad and Tobago. We have been using Australian vessels. They've come to the end of their life. We need to replace them, but we don't have the money. We need your help. The same day, the Australian Prime Minister called the authorities in Australia and put the Minister of Foreign Affairs onto this issue. And within a matter of months, I was invited to Australia before, and I didn't go, but because they were going to help us with this, I went. We went through a proper process, and we ended up tapping into Australian funding. And as I speak to you now, 2 vessels are being built in Australia. One to be named the APT James, and the other to be named the Buko Reef. And those 2 vessels are being built because you have to build your vessels. And given the cost of leasing, when you could get one to lease, the problem is going to be solved when those vessels come here next year. Because, you know, we are saying to you in this election campaign, not by accident, our slogan is getting the job done. They could talk as much as they want. They could talk as much as they want. They could spread as much misinformation as much as they want. I'm not taking them on. We're getting the job done. Not many of you have gone into the Columbus Channel or to go off the east coast of Trinidad. 80 miles off the east coast, that's where we're looking for gas now and where we have our rigs. 80 miles out in the ocean. We don't have any vessel in our Coast Guard that can go out there and stand out there for any length of time. How are we to defend our lifeblood? This is 2019. All it takes is one idiot to put us in grave danger. We don't have a vessel that could go out there. Well, whatever they say, this government that is getting the job done, in the same Australian initiative, we have ordered 2 vessels. Those vessels will have an endurance of 28 days, meaning that they could leave Stobbles and don't come back there for 28 days. Meaning that they could go out east, they could go south, they could go around Tobago, and we have 2. It means that we can always have 1 at sea. If you have 1, when it comes in for service, you have none. And if you have 2 and you put them out there, you give yourself a certain amount of coverage. Of course, in the meantime, the Venezuelan situation developed. And Venezuelans were leaving in droves and coming to us. And guess who calling on us to secure the borders? The same UNC people who canceled the contract for the OPVs. And it's only in the election of 2015, when they had to face that accusation, they went to China and took a boat that was most unsuitable, and they brought it here and left it for this government to pay for it. We had to find the $200 million to pay for that boat that is unsuitable. The first thing I had to deal with as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago was a notification that Trinidad and Tobago had a vessel coming from China, a military vessel, unarmed and passing through pirate-infested waters. Now what they left me with? I had to go and ask foreign countries to look at our vessel to make sure it ends up in Trinidad and Tobago. $200 million worth. But we go now in a process that is proper, getting the right vessels, getting our Coast Guard to go to Australia to see the vessels that work in the Australian Border Patrol units, and to tell the Cabinet whether in fact those vessels meet our needs and whether they are sanctioned by the Coast Guard. And they did give us that clearance. Only then did we put the order in. Ask them what order them put in for the Chinese boat and who authorized it. It was a Prime Minister in a stupor, saw a vessel, and liked it and said, I want one of those. And having got it, it cannot do the job. Did you believe that? But in the meantime, the helicopters that were supposed to be on the OPVs were not cancelled. They were here on the payroll, costing us hundreds of millions of dollars in maintenance and providing precious little with respect to our crime-fighting efforts. As Prime Minister, every day I have decisions to make. And I make those decisions on every occasion in my best consideration for the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You see, when we told them that we will do rural development with a minister to focus exclusively on rural areas and their speedy development so as to improve the quality of life and economic well-being of people living there. The intent is to bring all aspects of rural development, now scattered in many ministries, under one roof to ensure that there's coordination of the plans, the projects and activities in rural areas, and that rural development is given the highest priority. How did Kamala Prasad Bissasa receive that? She tear up the page. Tear it up. Well, we didn't tear it up. We kept it. We took it to the parliament and we established it as government policy. And that is what we are asking you to vote for. So when we ask you to vote for a PNM candidate, we are asking you to vote for a PNM candidate to support that policy in our manifesto, which is the government policy. You understand? I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell you whether I'm a leader or not. I don't have to tell you whether I'm competent or not. You will make that decision. You will make it. We have had to deal with a number of areas where serious decisions had to be made. Let me just give you all an understanding of how serious it is. A child born today, before that child does the SCA exam, if we don't find new gas in this country will have no gas. Pass that through your mind. A child that was born 12 years ago, that just did SCA, if at that time we were in where we are now, given the amount of proven gas that we have, if we don't keep finding gas and having gas available, even at the low price, what is our future as a country going to be? So, I understand very well the geological environment of Trinidad and Tobago. I understand our potential. I understand our difficulties. I also understand our neighbors. When I went to Venezuela to do what no other prime minister has been able to do, which is to get Venezuela to agree to have some of their gas come to us here in Trinidad and Tobago as our medium and long term. You think the UNC would be happy with that? Man, up on the jargon, deal the jargon, deal the jargon. It was an arrangement between two neighbors. One that is not having enough gas, running out of gas. Another one that has so much gas, the gas is being flared and wasted. You think they have this country interest at heart? In the intervening period after we signed that deal with the government of Venezuela, it is still there signed. Political difficulties that develop in Venezuela and the United States and South American countries have all decided how to handle Venezuelan problem. Your prime minister, leading in the CARICOM, stood by the principles of the United Nations and the OAS, non-interference and non-intervention. Those are fundamental principles where we have signed on to those things. We can't tell the Venezuelans how to run the country. What we can tell them is that we are a good neighbor to any authorized government in Venezuela, and we follow the UN Charter. Interestingly enough, three of the countries that were trying to bring about correction of Venezuelan problem. You saw what happened in their country in recent weeks? One of those countries, the government had to leave the capital city and run somewhere to hide. But they want to change the government in Venezuela. Another one is every day, thousands of people in the street calling for the government to do X, Y, Z. They had an election in one of them. The incumbent government claimed that they win by 0.5% or something, so bacchanal in the country. We're not there interfering in their business. They had solution for other people's business. But I'm not hearing them saying the same standards you're using up here, let's use down there, and want to guide us. We in Trinidad and Tobago, we as the government of Trinidad and Tobago, we always put the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago first. And of course, we will do so every time and leave it to you, the people, to determine whether we are worthy of your support. Because we believe that you are honest, right-thinking people. You're sensible people. And at the end of the day, when you go to put that X, after all that you know, you put that X next to the Balize. The UNC has come from most of the rural districts in this country. That's where they win a lot of seats. Agriculture is supposed to be their forte. Ask them to point to you one agricultural initiative that they initiated during their 5 years as government, with money coming out through their ears. They cannot. But the other day, they discovered by our announcement, we went out to the public, inviting the public, local and foreign, to come and put proposals to the government, because just a little away from you here in Aripo, there is 1,100 acres of good agricultural land for raising animals. It's not good for tilling the soil and so on, but it's good for grass and for raising animals. The government has it as a government farm, costing us millions of dollars a year, and hear me, costing us millions of dollars a year for public servants to be mining cattle in Aripo. It ended up with about 200 and something heads of cattle and a set of staff to go with it. And it's costing us millions, and the land is underutilized. In the process, we ended up receiving proposals. They were evaluated, and the minister brought to the cabinet the best proposal which the cabinet adjudicated upon. And I can tell you tonight that we got a private sector interest to invest $30 million in those lands to bring it as a proper modern cattle producing area. So you'll create employment, and you'll raise cattle, and you'll produce beef and milk in the private sector. And instead of you paying money, you'll be receiving a red proper rental for the land. When that was mentioned in the parliament, just like how they want to block the revenue stream to local government, they want to block the boat from Australia, they want to block that too. Here the UNC response, that they have concerns, because they always have concerns, They have concerns, because what they suspect the government has done, the land is quarry, the land has gravel, and the land has andesite, and these are valuable quarry materials, and what the government has done is not for agriculture, but to give people land to quarry. You ever hear more madness? The one from Orapooch West, the land have andesite. Well, let me give our lesson in geology tonight. The only place in this nation that has a rock called andesite is in Tobago. It doesn't have no andesite in Trinidad. The andesite that you know about is the quarry in Tobago that is now exporting rock to Trinidad and to Guyana. But they so want to create mayhem and mischief. She goes in the parliament where we have made an outstanding decision in agriculture, even that they can't support. And then come with this big, long, highfalutin policy about what they will do with land and give land available. How many thousands of acres of colony land we gave to people? It's nothing new. Those people, the land distribution of colony has gone tremendously well. Many people have got land. We have not seen an equivalent of agricultural production. So, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you these things so that you can understand that we in the PNM, we are not here just about talking for talk's sake. We are here to report to you and to tell you that what we are about is getting the job done in every single area. Whether it's in health, in sport, in culture. Tonight you heard an acknowledgement for the Minister of Culture and the Arts. Ask yourself, we were supposed to host Carifesta here in 2019, and without fanfare, without boast, in a difficult time, Trinidad and Tobago hosted Carifesta in the most outstanding way. And today, the entire CARICOM region, the entire Caribbean talks about the Caribbean Trinidad and Tobago model. That's how we operate. The Brian Lara Stadium was there, unfinished, left there for 5 years, and now saying that it will cost $279 million to fix it and finish it. You know what we did? We finished the Brian Lara Stadium, and we did it for $89 million. And today, it is one of the countries and the region's premier cricketing facility. They spent 5 years in office. They never touched the president's house. I can tell you as the neighbor that in a matter of weeks, President's house would be completed and be available to Her Excellency, the President, for use. Our parliament has been knocking all about like Miss Howard Cat. Wouldn't get into the Red House. They cover it with galvanized and surround it by galvanized hoarding. I can tell you that in a matter, by the end of this year, we will begin to move back into the parliament, and come January, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago will return to the Red House. And we would have done so for half of the price that was scheduled to have been spent on it. These are how we get the job done. Because you elected a government, as I said to you before, you didn't elect us to get re-elected. You elected us to address the problems of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And some of those problems are exceedingly difficult. Some of them require serious analysis. For example, the Petrotrin situation. I did not invent that. I did not make it, but I had the responsibility to fix it, and we get the job done. And as you're moving from the rain, I want to say I was pleasantly surprised at how many of you are here tonight, because the forecast was for heavy showers all night tonight. And when I looked at the forecast on the television, I didn't expect to meet you here. I even considered that we should have postponed this meeting. So thank you very much for coming out. And now that the showers of blessings are upon us, I want to say to you that this job that you've given us to do, your confidence has not been misplaced. I want to say to you that these showers that are blessing us now will continue to bless all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say to you that we at the PNM, we always pick up our candidates, screen them carefully, and put them to you as standard bearers of the Balize. Our symbol is the Balize. In every single local government seat, there is a PNM candidate. And if you want to support the policies and programs, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter how often we have to go to court to fight for it. It doesn't matter when it's going to be done. It's going to be done at the first opportunity that the PNM has been given the clearance to proceed. So go to the polls on December 2nd. Put your X next to the Balize and elect your PNM candidate. And when you would have done so, you would then say on the night of that election, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
PNM people!